Let's go now. Now the pressure's on. There you go. Go on. Hey, Brian, over here.
The winningest head coach in franchise history, Mike Shanahan, was elected to the Broncos Ring of Fame last Tuesday. And now we're chatting with the media member who probably knew him the best, Les Shapiro. Les, thanks for taking some time to chat about Shanahan's career. You obviously did the coach's show during his tenure in Denver. What's your relationship like with him?
Well, it's pretty good right now. You know, when I was covering him as a sports reporter on an everyday basis, I had to keep an arm's length, as we do in journalism, because if something were to go sideways with Mike or the organization, you had to be able to criticize. But since Mike is no longer coaching, and I'm spending part of my time in Scottsdale now, I've gotten very, very close with Mike to the point where we sit and watch games Thursday nights, Sunday nights, Monday nights, sometimes all day Sunday. And it's quite an education for me, I got to tell you. So we've become very, very close over the years. We talk very regularly and enjoy each other's company.
What do you think made him such a great coach?
Well, first of all, he was totally engrossed in the game. I remember when he was an assistant coach in Denver, we would meet up in his hotel room on the road or at a bar or at a restaurant in the hotel. And the conversations were kind of stilted because he was always drawing plays on napkins. I never had his full attention. He was committed to being great. Secondly, as you know, he was creative. He was real smart in his play design and in his play calling. He had that instinct, when to attack and how to attack. His timing on plays was impeccable. And thirdly, you know, like the greatest coaches in NFL history, Phil, from Lombardi to Shula to Landry to Noel to Belichick, Mike understands that football is a game of repetition, a game of discipline, a game of individual discipline for the player, a game of all-out effort. And if you don't give him that, you weren't going to be around very long. Or if you were given a talking to, but just once. You can tell if a team is undisciplined. You know, you have to be a little cold-blooded in this game when you're a head coach in the NFL. And Mike was certainly capable of that, but by necessity.
Man, one thing we're going to have to do as a team is learn how to finish plays. But doing what we did today, man, was a farce. That's not the way we operate around here. You guys want to be a 500 football team? That's the way we're going right now.
Chatting with Shanahan on the road and spending so much time with him, you have any good stories from doing the coach's show with him?
Well, only a few I can actually tell. Mike and I had this in common at the very beginning. We weren't big fans of Dan Reeves. Dan was very, very tough to get along with, and Dan didn't give a lot of credit to many people, including assistant coaches. And Dan also was very tough with the media. So that's how we kind of glommed onto each other. We spent a lot of time together complaining about Dan. Other stories, I'll tell you this. When we're sitting on the couch watching football on Sundays, it is unbelievable the amount of phone calls, the number of phone calls that he gets while we're watching the game. You would be amazed from players, current and former players, from head coaches around the league on game day, from assistant coaches around the league, coaches on the college and high school levels. They're all looking for advice and counsel from Mike. And of course, he talks to Kyle a few times every day, including football Sundays, going over all the 49ers stuff. In fact, he's got to be the most experienced unpaid intern in the league. The phone never stops ringing, Phil. It's really amazing. And I only get to hear one half of the phone conversations, but I can tell you they are incessant. He still has a lot of influence around the league.
John, two different thoughts. We could go for the H2 or the double go. Or do you think we should run it?
Strong safety's coming every team. I like the H2. I guess.
Yeah, me too.
Why do you think Shanahan got along with John Elway so much? I mean, we've heard these conversations, them on the sidelines, a lot of mutual respect there. What do you think was the key to that relationship?
John recognized that Mike wanted to make John the best quarterback possible and to use John's skill set. That was the rub with Dan Reeves, that Dan wanted things done his way in his system, regardless of the personnel, whereas Mike recognized John's unique talents and played to those skill sets. So I think that's the main reason they got along so well. You know, it took Mike a little time to convince John that taking pressure off John and using Terrell Davis more and other running backs would be to John's benefit. But when John saw it happening and they went on that fantastic run, that NFL historic 3-year run from 96 to 98, John recognized it. And that's why they got along so well.
You mentioned that 3-year run there. Of course, that 96 team, it ended with a heartbreak with Jacksonville. What do you think Mike learned from that helped them the next 2 years?
I know exactly what he learned from it because he talks to me about it all the time. He got too cute. He got too cute in the Jacksonville game. They were running the ball and running it effectively. And then in the second half, he wanted to bury Jacksonville with the passing game. And what they did was they didn't throw the ball very well in the second half. The clock was being stopped a lot because of incomplete passes. And Mike, to this day, blames himself because they believe they had a team that was capable of winning a Super Bowl, which would have made it 3 in a row. So Mike learned, use Terrell Davis more, take more of the pressure off John, run the clock, especially with as much talent as they had on offense. They could run the ball effectively against anybody. So the next couple of years, that's what they did. They made more and better use of Terrell Davis. And if you look at the stats, especially during the playoff run, the running stats in some of those games were greater than the passing stats. So that's what he learned.
Well, and of course, Shanahan was famous for being able to find running backs, 6 1,000-yard running backs during his time in Denver. What do you think? How did he do that?
Well, he took the Bill Walsh and George Seifert West Coast offense, and he improved on it. That's one of the reasons he should be in the Hall of Fame, actually, because he was an innovator. He improved on that great West Coast offense. He realized that if you are creative in the running game, it sets up everything else. He was able to bring in Alex Gibbs, a fantastic offensive line coach. They played with undersized offensive linemen, but they had such a great system and such a great teacher in Alex Gibbs and such a great head coach who allowed Alex Gibbs to coach his guys that they made it work.
What do you feel like Shanahan's lasting legacy will be?
Well, hopefully he'll be wearing a gold jacket at some point. His lasting legacy will be that he is the coach who finally reached the pinnacle of success for the Denver Broncos franchise. And his legacy will be that he was a creative coach, an influential coach, a winning coach, and one of the winningest coaches in the history of the game. You know, the two head coaches who just got into Canton this past year, Bill Cowher and Jimmy Johnson, Mike's resume compares very favorably to both those guys, and in some categories exceeds those numbers. What will make it more difficult is he's not on TV every weekend. So his profile isn't as high. He's not reminding everybody on a weekly basis every Sunday, how well he did coach. I think that's a key reason Terrell Davis also got in, because of his weekly appearances on the NFL Network. It helps. Mike's resume absolutely exceeds Tony Dungy's and Marv Levy's, and they're in. And some of the names being tossed around recently as future candidates, like Mike Holmgren and Dick Vermeil. Mike's numbers exceed theirs. So I have no doubt Mike belongs in Canton, and I think he'll get in eventually. And you know as well as anybody, Phil, a lot of that has to do with how hard the Broncos push as an organization. And I'm getting indications they will campaign hard going forward for that.
Les, while we're catching up with you here, what have you been up to lately? You mentioned spending some time down there in Arizona.
Yeah, I'm still doing broadcasting. Vic Lombardi, another Denver sportscaster, and I have started a podcast, and it's being sponsored by the CU, the University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Campus. Yeah. And in fact, we just did Terrell Davis last week. What we're doing is we're talking with current players, former players, current coaches, former coaches, front office people, and some entertainers about the adversity they've been through and how they've come out on the other end and continue to be successful. And what you find out, Phil, is just about everybody has had some form of adversity through their lives, hurdles they have to leap over, obstacles they have to overcome. And some of the stories have been just great. We've done Sue Bird and Dick Vitale, Matt Eisman, who hosts American Ninja Warriors, Terrell Davis, as I mentioned. You should take a look at that one. We've got George Carl coming up, who's had 3 different types of cancers. So if you go to unstoppablepodcasts.com, unstoppablepodcasts.com, you could hear those. And in Terrell Davis's case, you're going to hear stories you've never heard before. And they're really amazing that he was able to fight through some of these things and then go on to be a Hall of Fame running back.
And, of course, you and Vic, 2 titans in the media industry here in Denver, and both having some health things that you're both going through, too. So
right.
Nice that you're both working together.
We're overcoming our own stuff. So we can relate to the people we're talking to.
Well, make sure everybody out there go subscribe to Unstoppable Podcast there. Les, thank you so much for spending some time and sharing some stories here.
Sure. Thank you, Phil. Great talking to you.